morning and welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk. Today's November the 1st, and welcome. We've got an exciting show planned up for you. And what I love even better than the exciting topic is we have real examples to share with you this morning on the air. And without further ado, I'm joined by my co-host,
Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection. Why is Adam Talley from Talley Insurance wearing a blue hat?
Because tomorrow's his birthday.
A blue hat.
Birthday. I believe it's a crown, my friend.
Yes, it's a blue crown. I didn't get you pink. I gave you blue.
I appreciate that.
It was very nice.
So tomorrow is Adam Talley's birthday. Yeah. And we're also joined again by Mr. Mike Fasano, Pasco County Tax Collector.
Good morning.
And we're also joined by his sidekick, Mr. Tim Coet.
Good to be here.
Did you like the little voice crackle that came along with that? And so today, one of the questions we get, and I think Mimi printed it on the outline. Let's have a look here. So I get all these questions all the time that I kind of take for granted, right? Because we know the answer. We were talking about portability, and like, oh my gosh, you don't know about portability.
It's surprising how many people, even in the business, are not aware of portability, and this has been in place for many years now.
I know, and you worked hard to get it. That's the kicker. That's the part that's
It was passed in a special election,
2010.
2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2010.
Yes on one.
19, almost.
Yes on
10,
one,
almost,
yeah.
almost 10 years. So one of the questions that I get, so we have this property, and the ladies actually lived in it for a little while. We're looking up to see how long, because that's going to feed into another question later. Mm-hmm. But one of the listings that I had, she lived there with her husband, and her husband literally just moved into an assisted living, and she just moved to San Francisco. So we sold the home to like an investor that actually fixed it up really nicely and is going to be reselling it again. So one of the questions that I got from actually somebody on my team, and this is a very relative question because buyers would ask us this all the time. They would say, so her question was, okay, so portability of the estate tax exemption, what does that mean? And then she said, so what about the taxes? These taxes are going to go up, aren't they? And I said, oh yeah, they're absolutely going to go up because the taxes on this particular home were only $160 for the year.
What?
Actually, less
Well,
than
that's because the gentleman was a veteran, a disabled veteran. And
it's 100%, right?
100%.
Well, it's 100% if you're 65 years or older. If you're under 65 years or under 65, it's based on the percentage that you are getting. So let's say, for instance, a veteran who is disabled, that is military related, and you are 50% disabled, you would get a $5,000 exemption up until you're 65. At 65, then he would begin to get the 50% off of his the assessed value of his home. If you're 100%, you would get it regardless of age.
So 100% they get, let's break down exactly what they get a discount on, because on this particular one, if you want to look at it since it's our example,
sure.
Taxable value is actually zero.
Those are your ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem means property taxes. That means that he's not going to pay any tax on the ad valorem because he's getting 100% exemption on the assessed value. However, any type of exemptions do not come into play on non-ad valorem taxes like your county solid waste, your county stormwater, your community development taxes, your CDD, street lights, things like that, a PACE loan. That would all come under a non-ad valorem. You will always pay tax on those items regardless of the exemptions.
Because those are real expenses, right? But you're not essentially paying any taxes.
Well, they're not a tax. They're an assessment. Anything in this box here is an assessment.
Okay.
Not a tax.
It's a real expense, right?
Yes.
There's an expense for
Certainly.
stormwater.
Why are these guys laughing?
It's still money that shows up on a quote-unquote tax bill.
Yes, but
It's a tax
He's
notice.
responsible for
you're very
collecting the
familiar.
Notice.
You're very familiar with a PACE loan. PACE people will tell you that theirs is not a loan; it's an assessment.
It used to be in politics.
Huh?
Used to
wait a
be.
minute.
I'm just telling you the truth.
He's still an elected official.
I'm telling you the
Here's
truth.
a relevant point, because
Yes.
you guys are now, I don't remember all the specifics. I've had you on so many times I should, but you guys are actually collecting money and doing different things for different agencies, right? Like I know you
Certainly.
do driver's license,
Yes.
concealed weapons. Like what else are you guys doing that you're collecting money for?
Oh, we do public fingerprinting, but our main goal via the Constitution is the collection of taxes for the county. and then we distribute to the county those taxes. But we do concealed weapon permits, driver license, give your driving test, do public fingerprinting. The list goes on and on. Birth certificates, change
if you're
of title,
born in Florida.
Anything that has to do with motor vehicle as well.
Didn't you tell me somebody wanted you guys to take over their collection of something? I thought you said that a while back, or you were talking to a department or someone about it.
We are talking to some of the toll road people throughout the state. We have many people that will come into our office that are not able to renew their registration because they have an unpaid toll. We are unable to renew their registration until that toll is paid. So we're trying to work with some of the toll road agencies. Specifically, we're close to the one in Orlando.
Yep, CSX.
To have an interlocal agreement that we can take the toll road fines, if you will, the unpaid toll road fees, and get them paid off for the person right there and then, so they can renew their registration.
So that's nice. You just collect the money while they're there, renew it, so they don't have to come back.
Right.
It's such a convenience type thing, the way your organization is set up.
And
When somebody walks through the door, I kid with my staff, or we kid with our staff. We say, look, we don't want you to say it out loud, but when someone walks through the door, I want you to say cha-ching, because every time we provide a service, the tax collector's office benefits from it, from charging a fee for that service. However, we do not get any money from the county, the state, or the federal government. Everything that we generate to pay our staff, to pay for the lights, to do anything we want to do, is all based on the fees that we charge.
And that goes to say just how your organization is run.
Yes.
It's just run really, really well. You should teach budgeting classes.
But back to the tax bill, one of the things that's interesting is the cities will oftentimes come to us and add, Dade City came to and did street lights. Newport Richey, sir, wants to do what? They want us to do code violations, maybe put those on there, because it's extremely difficult for them to be able to collect those. And by law, we have to collect the entire tax bill, or we can't collect anything.
We're going to be doing possibly a couple of. We also, of course, anything in Florida statute that allows us to collect, and the county or the cities would like for us to collect it, we will do that. MSBUs, MSTUs, and you can see stormwater, solid waste, street lights. We're now working with the city of Newport Richey to collect for their
Code violations.
Yeah, code violations.
That's awesome. So let's talk about this particular example, right?
Okay.
So this gentleman has no ad valorem taxes that he pays. It's only the extra stuff, right? The non-ad valorem, so solid waste, stormwater. In this case, there's no CDD or anything like that.
Right.
So the question was that we got is, aren't these taxes going to go up? And with 100% assurity, we can say yes, they're going to go up.
Yes, they will.
Because for one, it's changing hands, right? It just sold for $175 to a cash buyer that let her stay for a few days after, get things sorted, and now that property's been totally renovated, and it's going to be changing hands for every bit of $250.
So that right now the assessed value is $176. It's
And
going to go to
that's-
two. It's going to go to two. Well, the
Your
sale
brand new
price
bill
is
today.
$250.
This is your brand new bill, 2019.
Oh, excellent! And let me tell you, it looks pretty good.
And it's working, too.
Yeah.
Our website's been updated. That's good.
You
Yes.
pulled it
Just
this
made my
morning.
day.
That's right.
5 minutes before he came in, we pulled it.
So so right now the assessed value is $176 before any exemptions. So you go by that. Now the new taxable value will be just probably under $250 if that's what they're paying.
So I pulled a ballpark number. We went over to the property
Sure.
appraiser, Gary Joyner's office, and
Right.
basically did, okay, if this sold, we pulled 85%
Yes.
of $250.
Yep.
If it sold for every bit of that, new assessed value will be around $212,500.
Right.
And I put in a $50,000 homestead exemption, assuming somebody would live there as a primary residence.
Right.
So that changes and makes our new taxable value $162.
That's correct.
Which is actually less than what's on here, but the guy was a disabled veteran. Is that fair?
Well, actually, no. That is not. That 162 is not that.
So that would be this?
That 162 would be this, and then the exemption would come in, the 50,000. So
Got
it would be $50,000 less if this gentleman did not have the 100% exemption.
So we're going to give you an idea how this works when we come back, and we're going to give you an idea what this new tax bill might be next year for the new owner. that is currently $160 right now. And so that's why when we are in the field with our clients, they get so hung up on what's the payment. And the one thing that we can't predict is the taxes, at least initially, right? We cannot give you an exact amount. It's going to depend on the house that you purchase. And so we're going to talk more about that when we come back right after the break. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text us at 813-377-2775. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection. We have our topic, which is my favorite topic, is numbers. It happens to be taxes, which is
too, right?
not my favorite topic, but numbers is. So this is exciting. Mike Fasano's got a whole bunch of
But
numbers.
no, those aren't mine. Those are hers.
Oh, those are
I came empty-handed.
Yeah, he came empty-handed.
Our office just produces those, Leo. Don't
Yeah.
hold those against us.
Yeah. We only collect the taxes. We don't decide
Your
what they
favorite
are.
saying is probably "Don't shoot the messenger," right? Like,
Yeah.
don't shoot the tax.
Actually, it's people are very understandable. They know it's not us. So
You had a great point, Tim, during the break. You mentioned it. You were saying people come into you all the time. Oh my gosh, why is this tax bill so different than it was last year?
Certainly.
yeah.
Yeah, we get that a lot. Where people buy a new home and the other person enjoyed the exemptions, the Save Our Homes cap, and now they're buying that home maybe for $350,000, and they expect the tax bill to mirror what the previous owner just had, and we run into that a lot where we have to explain to them, well, the taxes are based off of the new assessment of the new value of that home based on what the property appraiser has on their website. So it is something we see quite often, and this is a great example of that, particularly because of the full disabled veteran exemption as well.
Right.
We had
What's a rogue example, but it's a real example.
It is a real one.
Well, we had a young family that called me, and I called them back. I knew right away because they could not understand why their taxes increased so significantly. They bought a home. They were having to sell their home because when they found out what the taxes were going to be, it was way out of their budget, and they had to sell their home.
That's a shame sometimes.
Because sadly, no one told them. No one told them that Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, by the way, just so you know, that $1,000 tax bill that the seller is now paying is going to now go to $3,000.
You know where we see it happen the most is in new construction, especially at this time of year, because what happens is, let's say the house just got the CO, which is a certificate of occupancy.
And they were only paying on the lot.
Just got it summertime, right? So the bill right now is just the land. But what's going to happen is their lender already estimated what the full tax bill would be. This is really what happens every 2 years.
Yeah, we see it.
So they estimate what the full tax bill will be. Now they get this new tax bill for under $1,000 because it's just on land. So they say, "Oh, your escrow is wrong. We have to redo it." So then they send them back all this money. They drop their payment, and then they're thinking, "Oh, life's great. My payment dropped." Well, we try to prepare people for that going into new construction, saying, "Look, your taxes are going to be out of whack for 2 years. It's going to take 2 years for this to settle based on the time that you close." So now and I say, "Look, this money is not free money. Take it, put it in a savings account, because what's going to happen is the next year you're going to get a tax bill with the whole thing on it. Make sure you get your homestead on it." We see that too, where they forget to file.
That's correct.
So they got the super high bill the next year, then they got to wait till the following year. So now you're talking about 3 tax bills later to get homestead exemption. But new construction, it's super wacky, just because of the taxes are paid in arrears.
When's the best time to move in as a permanent resident during the year?
Well, the deadline for homestead exemption is March 1st, right?
No. Well, that's to file it. But the most important date,
December 31st.
is right. If you're going to get homestead for that year, make sure you move in, if you can, by December 31st.
Make sure your deed is
unless what? Unless the prior owner already had homestead on
Right.
that home, then you're good for that year. But if, and of course the person has already paid the taxes for that year, but if you get in there before January 1st, you can file by March 1st and get the following year as far as your homestead.
Yeah, because again, it tags along for whatever happened last year. So
Yep.
whatever's going on as
Yeah.
of December 31st, that's what you're going to see at
Right.
the end of the year.
We'll have some businesses, not individuals, but businesses that will build a business, but not move in until after the 1st, because they don't want to be assessed until for that new value, because they don't get homestead anyway. But the property appraiser will go back and say, wait a minute, even though you didn't get a certificate of occupancy until the 3rd or 4th of January, this business could have been occupied prior to that, and you're being assessed for the prior year.
Well, if they don't have a CO, they couldn't have occupied it, could they?
Well,
Nope.
If you're
no,
talking
they
about new
can't. They
construction.
can't occupy until the CO. But the property appraiser will look at that business and say, you could have gotten a CO prior to January 1st. And some businesses have been hit. I had a gentleman call me and very upset, and I explained to him this is a property appraiser's discretion.
Even if they show you a list of county rejections on permits?
Well, that's a different story, but this business didn't have that.
He's used to arguing this.
Well, no, it's just that I've seen, like, on a house.
Well, it's just odd that how would you get a CO 3 days after?
On January 4th?
Yes.
Easily.
Exactly. All of a sudden, the CO pops
I see
up.
this
you
as
know?
I'm saying just wait 2 weeks, make it.
Well, wait a little longer. Make it
think
look legit.
Exactly.
Make it look
I see this all the
legit.
time. You get like a December 20th, 21st rejection on your grading because your sidewalk was possibly in the wrong place.
Sure.
And then that guy goes on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but that's understandable. I think this is a different scenario is what I'm giving you.
So what I'm trying to say is if you're running into this problem, call Leo Kane at Barrel
Shameless plug. I love it. Good job.
Yeah.
I know, right?
But it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to call the property appraiser as well and let them know they're having difficulty moving in prior, and this is these are the issues. So you're prepared, and they're prepared if all of a sudden the CO shows up, 5 days after the first of the year.
Katrina, let me ask you, this particular example that you're looking at right here, where the taxes need to be adjusted, the new homeowner's got to get themselves prepared. How well do you see title companies handling this?
Be more specific in the question.
So when the person goes to closing, right, we have our big long HUD statement, and they have the settlement cost of the taxes they owe, and then the settlement cost of the taxes what the seller owes. Is that title company in any way, or is it even their responsibility to help that new homeowner understand what their future taxes are going to be?
It's not. Their only job of the title company is technically to ensure clear marketable title. That's their only job.
So we need to be sure as the homeowner.
Well, they happen to facilitate
know
the
what their taxes are
closing,
gonna be.
but people think that's their only job, but really they just happen to do that, right? Like you happen to collect taxes for something that you don't even are not a part of. It's the same thing. Your only job is to collect taxes, just like the title company's only job is to ensure clear marketable title. So really, I think a lot of the response, and technically all the due diligence does fall on the homeowner.
Certainly.
And what they tell us, like, because I'm a broker, right? So they say, even though I know the answer many times to stuff, like even questions people would ask legally, what they always tell you is don't be the source to the source, right? So for example, in this particular scenario, right, I get a buyer that comes in and they go, what is my new tax bill going to be? I'm not going to just tell them, oh, your new tax bill is going to be blah, 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 right? Because we pulled up an estimate on what this would be. What I would do is point them to the property appraiser site, estimate taxes, and say, well, I pulled a ballpark 85%. I don't know exactly what the property appraiser is going to assess you on, but whatever that number is what you'll be taxed on. And if you had a homestead exemption and you close by the end of the year, which is what we're talking about, then your new tax bill might be $1948.65. But here's what I got from the property appraiser's office. Yeah,
got it.
So that's what I mean by being the source to the source. The problem is a lot of times even like the source to the source is not a good resource.
But you know where you also run into a problem is with escrow accounts. The lender is going to base your monthly escrow, based on what the taxes were from last year's tax notice.
Most of the time, not always.
Not always.
In this particular case, and in new construction, they are always going to put a big number on there.
Right.
Because they don't want to have an escrow shortage, and they know they will.
Right.
The challenge is they're not allowed to hold more than a 3-month cushion by law, so they have to give all that money back to the buyer, which is why you see this yin-yang for 2 years with the taxes.
Gotcha.
But, again, this is the guidance, right? And I tell people, I had a client in here yesterday, and we were talking all about, because they want to know a lot of times, what's my numbers going to be exactly? I want a budget. And the truth is, I can't tell you exactly what your numbers are going to be, especially if I don't even know what house you're going to pick. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a big part of the equation because the taxes are such a big part of it.
That's great. We had some lender, some mortgage companies from out of state kept emailing us saying, can you tell us what the taxes will be if a home is put on this property? And they couldn't understand as we kept emailing them back, it's impossible for us to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, how many square feet. We wouldn't even attempt to try and tell you, nor would the property appraiser. We don't know what kind of home you're going to put on that lot. And they could not get it through their heads. They kept coming back saying, well, you know, can you at least tell us the estimate if we put a property, you know, a home on this property?
What they didn't want to hear is there's going to be an escrow shortage. That's what they were trying to
Is that what it was?
Yeah. They don't,
I couldn't understand why they kept asking of us.
I don't know if you guys escrow, like I don't, but for example,
I do.
Okay, so let's say you escrow and now you have a $1,500 tax shortage.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but your lender is always going to come to you and say, hey, you got a $1,500 tax shortage. Can you go ahead and write a check and take care of that? And you can turn around and say, no, I don't have $1,500 to take care of this. I need you to divide it up in my payment over 12 months.
And increase
they
it.
have to do it.
Right.
So it'll be a little over $100 a month.